My name is Jody Rock. I am a band member in Mississauga of the Credit First Nation, currently working as the health liaison. Part of the work that I do is to support health service providers in capacity building, and what that means is putting suggestions in for training of new staff, so onboarding, professional development of staff, with the end goal of having them better able to support Indigenous people as they engage with the healthcare system. Okay, we're good to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey again, Ashton. Another conversation today. We're going to be looking at the difference between our medicines and pharmaceuticals, but specifically at safety. So some of the things that I've heard out and about in my work is that health practitioners, they discourage use of our medicines because they fear that there's going to be interactions. It's actually going to be unsafe. So the first question that I would like you to talk about, are you aware of any commonly used pharmaceuticals and how they work or what they may do within the body? So say, for example, things like metformin for diabetes, or like, do you have knowledge of those pharmaceuticals that kind of are out there?
Yeah, so from my own experience, and again, working with people in medicine, is that one of the things, and that's one of the very first questions I tend to ask people, is what medications are you taking? What kind of allergies do you have? Because again, knowing the different plant medicines and knowing the different pharmaceuticals that people are taking, we can better help them with plant medicine. And so one of the things that I often tend to do, now for somebody that's taking metformin, I don't give them as strong of a dosage as I would somebody else not taking it. So it's knowing those certain pharmaceuticals and how to better treat the individual, right? Now, some people with heart disease and heart issues, right? So we have medicines that we give them for those kinds of things. And what we do is to help them is, again, to give them a smaller dosage. They won't take it for as long a period of time, right? And things like that. So that's another way that we make sure that it's safe for them to take, and that we won't have those kinds of interactions as medicines, right? Another thing as well is that when people come to me and they ask, well, maybe I'll talk to my doctor about this. See, with doctors, a lot of them don't have the kind of knowledge when it comes to certain plants and interactions with their medications. But a place you can go and they do have knowledge is the pharmacies. So the pharmacies will actually have that in a database as to what will interact with what. And that's where I tell people, if you're really cautious of something, go talk to your pharmacist. They can give you that information where a doctor couldn't, right? On the flip side of that, and what I've seen in my own learning and knowledge is that we talk about medicines, and oftentimes you'll read these in books. They'll say, okay, well, if you're taking this medication, don't take this, right? And I often scratch my head because, especially when we talk about pregnancy and women taking pregnancy medicines, is they'll almost always have this label attached to them, right? Be very cautious, this can cause interaction with this and this. But these are medicines that we've used for time immemorial for treating certain issues that can be caused, like miscarriage and things like that, right? So we're very, again, when you're working with a medicine person that's knowledgeable on the medicines, they'll always make sure that you're in the best hands, that you will be given medicine that is safe, right? So I would say, yeah, that the majority of medicine people will have that kind of knowledge on interactions between Western medicines and our medicine.
So again, going back to how to spot or flags that you should be aware of, red flags. So if somebody's not asking, are you on medication, do you have allergies, then that might not be such a credible source to be going to for this knowledge.
Yeah, I would say so, because again, it's all about safety. We want to make sure that when somebody comes and sees us, that they're going to get the best care, that they're going to get help from the medicine. And so, again, that's very important that we know what they're taking, because I don't want to prescribe or give something to somebody when they're, taking something else, right?
Right.
Because now especially with somebody with low blood pressure, right? If I'm giving you something and you're already taking something for low blood pressure, it's going to get your blood pressure so low to a dangerous level. And again, that's not something that we want to happen, right? So it's very important that you disclose what you're taking when you work with the medicine person. Yeah. Ready to go? Okay.
We're good to go? Okay, so you mentioned earlier that in your consultation you ask people about the medication that they're taking and allergies, which is really good because I never even thought of allergies and potential interactions.
Yeah.
So when you're making a blend for somebody, do you go through everything that's in it, every plant that may be part of that, and how it may be working to heal or the side effects?
Yeah, so again, if we're talking about medicines and allergies too, it's like you have to be very cautious because having knowledge of different plants, and this is the real benefit of knowing your surroundings and knowing what's available from the earth, is that you can substitute different plants for issues, especially if somebody's allergic to something. So you'll know which ones that will be better suited for that person based off what they're telling you. And so the other thing is that when they tell me that, especially if it's somebody with high blood pressure, right? Okay, so now I'm going to give them a medicine that's going to make them have to go to the bathroom, right? So diuretics, right, helping to lower the blood pressure. And so those are plants that I'll tell them what's in there, right? Some people really want to know, and that's fine. I give them that information that, okay, these are all the plants and medicines that are in here. And that to me is something that's very important. Because again, as somebody that has seen traditional healers, medicine people, some aren't so open with that, right? And one of the ways that I wanted to be when I started working with medicine is giving people that knowledge. Because if you give somebody the knowledge of what's in there, they can make it at home for themselves. So if it's something that works good for them, why not give them that information to be able to take care of their own health and bring that knowledge back, eh? And that's part of that. That's part of the education. That's part of reclaiming our identity. That's for me, so learning about medicine has been a part of that, right? Decolonizing ourselves, eh?
So when you talked about knowing the ingredients, I guess for lack of a better word, of what might be in a blend, you're also supporting the individual to develop that relationship with the plants. Yeah. So say, for example, we see lots of cattails around here, right? I'm a city person, so maybe they're cattails, maybe they're not.
No, there's a cattails, yeah.
But like if we know, like if I was to get a blend from you that had cattail in it, every time I'd see a cattail, I know for me, I'd be like, oh, hey, that was part of the medicine that made me feel so much better. Yeah, exactly. Right. So we're restoring that relationship with the land and with creation by being thankful for those plants that are in that blend. Yeah. Now, earlier when you talked about harvesting medicine, you mentioned that for some you may need to wear gloves, some you might not want to touch your face. Yeah. Are there varying degrees of safety for plant medicine use? And are there certain risks for different medicines? And how would you communicate that to a community member?
Yeah, so if we look at certain plants, say like stinging nettle, for instance, right? So stinging nettle can be one that causes skin issues, right? People break out. Exactly. A lot of people unknowingly find stinging nettle, right? And so that's one of the things that we be cautious about when, especially I take younger people out to harvest, is that, and people that I'm training, right, is that, we wear gloves. If you're somebody that hasn't done it before, wear gloves. And this way you're fine. See, me, I've had such experience around it. I can just pick it and I don't break out. I don't have issues. But again, there's different degrees of safety, like you said. So bloodroot being one, right? Sanguinaria canadensis. That one you have to be very careful of because we do utilize that as a medicine for the heart, that when you harvest, the sap that comes from that plant, you don't want to touch your face because again, it can slow your heart rate down. So we got to be very cautious when we do that. And when I give medicine to somebody in the community or somebody that's asked me, I do communicate those things to them that, to be very cautious in how you take this, how you use this, and to give them the dosages that are safe enough for them. to hand it. Yeah.
So when you're looking at dosages, how do you figure that out for an individual? Like, how do they know how much to take?
Well, oftentimes, so we have dosages for kids, we have dosages for adults, right? And so a lot of that information comes from our ancestors, right? It comes from, that's ancestral knowledge. But in some people, like I said, with allergies or people that are taking medications, we tend to tell them to take half the dosage, right? And then some people, they will start them off really small and then they work their way up. So that tends to be the better way to safely give medicine, to administer medicine to people. Yeah.
We talked earlier about working, like both plant medicine and Western medicine working together. So for someone like myself that's on diabetes medication, if you're giving me some medication or some medicine, I may start small with the plant medicine and then gradually increase that as I reduce my metformin, you know, that type of thing. So, you know, and at the same time, keeping an eye on my glucose levels. Right. So you're really supporting the individual to, you know, figure out what works best for them.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. So a lot of times I tell them, you know, just to keep me updated on how they're feeling, if we need to change things, lower things, right? And again, because we want to make sure that that person is feeling good. We don't want them ever feeling negative or having any kinds of side effects, right? And that's very important that we make sure that they're following that as well. Right.
So with pharmaceuticals, there's you know, warning labels and whatnot that are put on, like, do not use this if you're driving. You can't use heavy machinery or something if you're using this. Do you give the same kind of warnings to community members?
I wouldn't. I would say because on some of them, especially, we have to be cautious. Like when I go do events and stuff, and I take prepared packages of medicine, oftentimes I'll tell them, especially, you know, if you're somebody that's pregnant or breastfeeding, don't take this one because, again, it can have negative side effects. So we have to be very cautious of that too.
Right. We're going to switch a little bit, unless there's anything that you wanted to use or add, about the safety of using plant medicines, to give you an opportunity to cover anything that you haven't touched on if you want.
I think we pretty much covered.
Okay, so what I want to ask about now is we have hospitals and different health centers. They're creating these spaces, not just in their physical location, but in their policies, to support people having bundles and access to their medicines and their own ways of healing. What types of things would you like to see in hospitals, for example, to support providing inpatients with consultations or access to or preparing plant medicines? What would your wish list be in those spaces?
Well, I would say, again, because being somebody that even before all these things started to be put in place, right, I would have to take medicine to people in hospitals, and again, we'd cover them and hide them and keep things hush-hush, because again, we've been so scrutinized as to using our own medicine. And so I guess one of the things that would be great to see is to have spaces where they're private, that we can do these things, do our work in hospitals, right? And whether that's giving somebody traditional medicine, preparing it there on site, or different types of ceremonies that need to be done for these individuals, because again, it's all part of our healing and our spirituality, right, and who we are as a people. And to have those things in place and to make sure that those are enforced. And again, because I've seen how, even though these policies are put in place, our people are still being mistreated and not being given access to these things. So one of the things I guess I would like to see more is that, again, having a more private area in the hospital where they can do these things, do these ceremonies, because again, these aren't things that are for everybody. These are things specifically for us, whether they're private or not. And our medicines are exactly the same. Those aren't meant for everybody, that knowledge that's there. But we try to make sure that we have the things we need, the tools we need to do that, whether it be a space to prepare teas and then to store them there, right? To keep them covered, things like that. I think would be really good to have.
So there's two things, and hopefully I won't forget.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you talked about was private, private space, and I just want to touch on that because my family experience had a family member in hospital, living with cancer, dealing with that, and this loved one was a regular smudger. That's a word, like smudger. To smudge to start their day, right? Yeah. And what they needed to do in hospital was actually wheel their bed outside and smudge outside because they couldn't do it easily within the hospital. And what that turned into is it turned into like a spectacle for people that were walking by. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, can I be part of that? And they're on stage in a very private moment where they're setting their intentions for the day and honoring that connection to spirit and asking for their day to roll out in that good way. And they were very okay with it on the surface level, but myself, I think I would have been, not felt very good.
You feel very exposed.
Yeah, right? In that very private moment. When we're looking at the use of medicines in the hospital, some of the things I've heard is that it violates the scent policy. We have occasions where healthcare practitioners they're actually cutting leather off of people's bodies or taking off medicine pouches or doing different things. So are there things that you want to see in those hospital policies, kind of things for people not to be doing? Yeah,
I mean, that's to hear things like that and to know people that's happened to, right? It's very disrespectful. It's very disrespectful to our culture. And, these are things that wouldn't happen to anybody else. And so one of the things I think we should have is there should be knowledge keepers and elders that are there that can be available to our people when they're in these places, and that they can help them and give proper direction to nurses and doctors that are there, because again, these are things that should not be happening. And it's very sad to hear.
Yeah, so ideally, positions within the hospital for people to come in and to share that education, because part of what we're doing here is a step forward, but we need other people to kind of share their learnings as well, right? Yeah. So things that may be learned here, other people to go out and to share as they, do their work. Was there anything else that you wanted to add? We've talked about a lot of different things. I want to make sure that you have space to cover anything.
Well, one of the things we talked about, and especially me being somebody that I've had to walk in both spaces, right? Taking medicine to people in hospitals. And again, that kind of, it's almost like we feel shamed in a sense that we're not given the proper respect that we should when it comes to using our medicine, whether it's smudging in hospitals, whether it's doing ceremony for our people, and especially our people that are dealing with cancer and things like that, right? So again, when we talk about this, the as a whole, when we treat somebody holistically, it's like all those things have to be covered, right? And give them that so they feel good about themselves, right? And so now when people come and get medicine from me, and they feel that their doctors are totally, shaming them for using our own medicines, right? Or totally telling them to not take it or avoid it, right? And these are things that shouldn't be happening. And I would like to see that more education being done, because again, we're not just people that are just picking plants and putting them in a pot and here you go. There's a lot of information and knowledge that goes into preparing things for people that they take. And so, it's something I think we need to do a lot more work on, for sure.
Yeah, what you say is so true, because there's, occasions where people have hid that they're using traditional medicines from their practitioners. And like we talked about earlier, that can pose danger of, what do they call them? Reactions, using the two together. So I think, anything like that, any occasions where any of our people are feeling like they're not listened to, that they're not being validated, that they're being discouraged from practicing whatever it is that makes them feel well, whether that's our ceremonies or, you know, taking plant medicine, they need to address that with the system. And that could be the patient relations department or, you know, the patient ombudsman. There's a lot of ways to bring that up. And one of the things that I'm seeing now is not only are hospitals doing policies around, you know, educating staff in policy, this is what you need to do. Like, don't cut anybody's hair without their permission. You know, those things that we see happening all too often.
Well, it's like what you talk about, right? So if we talk about our hair, right, and our hair and what it means to us, right? It's our connection to the earth. It's our connection to our ancestors. It's a connection that, for us, when we have long hair, it's an extension of our spirit. It's an extension of all these things, right? So our mental, our emotional, our physical, spiritual, it's all in our hair. And so that's why I would say to people that, you know, you shouldn't be cutting anybody's hair without their consent, without them being fully aware of what's going on, because that's a big part of who we are as a people. Now, our medicine pouches, right? So our medicine pouches, right? When we keep our sacred medicines, those are personal medicines to us, right? That's very, it's a very sacred thing to us, right? When we talk about bundles and we talk about our spiritual items, the medicine pouch is one of the first things that's a part of our bundle. So it's an extension of our bundle while we keep on us. And so that's another thing I would say, that, again, those things should not be removed without their knowledge or their consent, because, again, it's something that's so spiritual and has such significance to us and importance. Yeah. So one of the things I think in closing is the whole reason why we're doing these talks is because our ways of maintaining our health and wellness, our ways of healing ourselves has been looked down upon. You know, not only has it been looked down upon, it's been outlawed. Like, to be real, like, there was actually laws prohibiting us from practicing different ceremonies and types of things. And there's that shame and embarrassment that comes with being told you're less than. And I think one of the things that I'm taking away from our time together today is that our ways of taking care of ourselves, our ways of healing, supporting each other and doing that is far more superior than just going to someone and getting a prescription and a pill. Like, we look at the whole individual, we look at treating the cause, not just the symptoms. We look at, you know, educating the person and restoring their connection to land and community. And that's what ceremony can do, is restore that connection to community. So I think in closing, everything that we've talked about today, you know, it really debunks that idea that our ways are inferior and that they're less than. So, Miigwech, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated.